have over here as the Big 8 debate. As we, the topic for today's panel discussion, which is most of the industry stalwarts are going to be here, is fire and security awareness the key to Surakshit Bharat, or are these stronger and stringent policies and enforcements are required? May I request upon this stage Mr. Sandeep Goyal, Founder Director, Prion Consultants, to kindly take over from here and please, sir. Request you to please take over, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Anasab. So looking at the panelists which we have on the dais, I think half the stage will come over here. All the audience will be over here, sitting with me over here. So we have a huge panel, I would say. I'll have to really look at the names over there and request them to come over, please. So I go by the order how it is written. We'll have Mr. Sanjeev Sehgal from Sparsh. Mr. Sehgal, I request you to please step on. We have got Mr. Shekhar coming from Ravel. I'll keep saying the names across, please. We have got Mr. Rajiv Paul coming from KPT Piping. Anik, good friend, please come over, HD Fire. We have got Ricardo, who's coming from VID Fire Kill. We have got Mr. Vora, who comes to us from Bosch. We come from Jiju Nair, who comes to us from Honeywell. We have got colleague from Motorola, Mr. Aman Modgil. We have got over here from LK, Mr. Menon. And of course, our dear President, Mr. Srinivas. Welcome, sir. Would you have a mic? I would like to, it's too much of a distance over here. Would you have a microphone? Hand microphone. Okay, come over, please. No problem. So you're coming from which company? Please come. I need a mic.
You want a mic?
Yeah.
Here.
No, I won't take it.
Here it's one.
Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon. So as you can see over here, we have a lot of experts who will talk to us about their thoughts about the Surakshit Bharat. We are talking about awareness, we are talking about policy, enforcement. So I think we'll have to pick up 3 words from this whole conversation. One, to start with, we will talk about awareness. Then we will talk about policies, and we'll talk about enforcement of those policies. So this is the whole idea of this panel. And typically speaking, you know, we would have a lot of debate I would like to come across to. And as you could see, you know, I was kind of being talked with my panelists who said, what will be the thought process like? And I said, I'm not going to be covering with any kind of a handwritten notes or paper, so that we will do it ex tempo. We'll try to make it more attractive, more, I would say, more interesting by our talks. And this is what I will take up the mission of conducting this panel with the great panelists who are there. And as you can see, many of them who come over here are coming from OEM manufacturing background. So we respect them for their research work, for their lot of hard work which gets into getting products to us, and to have it kind of looked into for the purpose of the universal ambition of providing safety to the occupants of the buildings which occupy these spaces in our, you know, in our working. So I think to keep it more simple, rather than going random, I would like to go ahead with the order of questions the way the panelists' names appear on the screen to make it more simpler. Otherwise, I might miss conducting some questions to so many colleagues who are there on the stage. And maybe I do put questions which I missed out. So we'll go in the same order as there is what is there on the back of the screen of my panelist. So as you could see, the first name appears over there is Mr. Sehgal. So Mr. Sehgal comes to us from Sparsh. So we would like to take up this discussion, Mr. Sehgal. You come from industry which is Make in India, which is basically in terms of what we do is surveillance. So we have got this good aspect of awareness, right? Where are your policies? Where are your enforcements? Why you are running such a large business on the portfolio of the aspect only of, let's say, awareness? Why the industry is not given us policies and enforcement requirements yet? Why is it not there? And if yes, then what? If not, why not?
Thank you, sir. So first of all, policies have been already coming into place. So last year on 6th of March 2024, a gadget notification came for CCTV equipments, which we talk about the surveillance kind of a things. So a public procurement order for Make in India came into implication, where they said cyber security and trusted supply chain should be mandatory for any CCTV camera which needs to be installed in government places. Public procurement order was majorly for the government places. So this was the first step towards what we call about key compliances. So there were awareness was there, people were putting up these equipment, but nobody was aware how to go about it. So we have a video surveillance committee, LITD 26 group also in BIS, where all these standards are being drafted for last 11 years. Definitely, it was a new industry, and electronics manufacturing, especially video surveillance manufacturing, was not happening much in India. So it took some time to come to this level. Fire was a very old thing. Fire was being installed for so many years. So this was the first step which came last year on 6th of March. So where the whole definition, how the domestic value addition has to be calculated, everything was defined. But immediately after that, something came from the Prime Minister office that these CCTV cameras are not only being installed in government places. They are being installed at all the places where it is very eminent for security for everyone, where the people are moving around.
But on policy, does the surveillance has to be installed in certain categories of buildings? Where is the policy for that to be provided for?
So that would be the next step. First step is that they have come up what kind of equipment has to be. So that policy is also that is a standard which has been already drafted in BIS in LITD 26, which is an advisory note. In this policy of public procurement order also, MIT had come up with an advisory note 2 days after that on the 9th of March, that any building, what kind of a CCTV equipment needs to be installed and what things should be taken into the consideration.
So what is to be talked about over here when we take our children to school today, and specifically the young parents, they would look at schools which have got cameras installed just for making sure that the children's well-being is being taken care, they can see it. So typically speaking, this all awareness pattern is working in the country. But the policy for having the video surveillance, let's say, available for a airport, for a healthcare, for a school, that is something which is yet not around.
So advisory has come up. The first step is that, first step has come up that this is an advisory. These kind of equipment should be installed. This should be the minimum requirement. It has not come into as a compliance, mandatory compliance. So maybe that would be the next step where the industry need to work together and to make it a kind of a compulsory.
So I understand what you're saying over here. I think awareness has come in, but overall we are lacking in terms of identification of the systems to be provided occupancy wise.
No, they have come up with that also.
But that's only yet not notified.
It is notified as an advisory thing.
Yeah, fine.
Not as a compliance.
Okay. So the advisory mentions what kind of facilities, what kind of equipment?
Every kind of a facility. They have tried to cover up almost every kind of a facility.
So I think this is something which is getting, interesting, that we have got an advisory to mention that. And how many of us as designers, as architects are aware of that advisory is where the awareness would lie into. I think that is what is to be driven.
That's missing. We are regularly talking to BIS to bring in more awareness about that already. These so this is IS 16910, which is a IS standard which talks about this thing.
Sure. So I think this was an interesting takeaway from here, that we have a IS standard which prescribes the requirements as a part of advisory. Yeah. I'll just, in the order of the moving, I think I'll go to over here to the Ravel colleague who is available to us and who is going to be speaking to us about the UL listed Ravel panels which you have come up with. So I think that gives a lot of glory to the country. So again over here, what do you think about in terms of policies on fire alarm systems and people not cutting corners on that? Because what we feel is that despite that there are codes, standards, systems, but then there is still a over-awareness of cutting the things which are not required to be done and to be seen, let's not provide it. So how much of challenge, despite that you have become Make in India, that you have become UL listed, your cost probably you could claim to be more optimized, still you are facing issues of people not to comply what is required and to ask for so-called value engineering within the projects.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. So, see, when we talk about UL listed panels, it's a trademark. We cannot deny that. So, what is the requirement? It's all based on the requirement of a project, of a building owner, how it goes on. See, we insist on UL listed panels. There is no doubt on it. But are there strong policies, enforcements that every building should have a UL listed panel? This is one of biggest questions we have. So I believe that strong policies, extreme enforcements should happen in India, and policies should be completely nationwide.
तो सबको पता है, should सबको पता है.
Sorry.
Problem
Must.
ये है, must भी सबको पता है.
Okay.
Problem है कि should को कैसे avoid किया जाए.
Okay. So this is an suggestion. What I'm trying to say is the codes policy should be nationwide. It can all the policies are now directed state-wise actually. So if it is nationwide, uniform policies, we'll be able to get through that page actually very soon.
Yeah, I think the whole problem lies is that when we have got this approach of how to avoid the should and how to find a measure to avoid the should.
That's where the enforcement comes. So
That's right. That's where the enforcement comes, but that also leads to the fact that if you try to make the should avoided, what kind of catastrophic issues it can have as a part of your legal issues. So those are the things which we will come back to you, because we want to know, despite cost being reduced from your perspective, still people are very passionate about इसको किसी तरह से और dilute कर दिया जाए. So that is something we'd like to kind of understand over here. Now I go to another colleague who comes, Mr. Paul, who comes to me from KPT Piping. Sir, you are from the plumbing fraternity of
Yes.
waters.
Yes.
Right?
Piping system.
Yeah. So piping system में piping system की तो कोई compliance ही नहीं है, as far as plumbing is concerned.
Yes.
Right? You pick and choose what you want to pick and choose.
Yes.
There is
definitely.
no compliance for a MOC, material of construction,
Yes.
in a plumbing system
Yes.
to pick this pipe only. In that perspective, well, you are in a different field of a plumbing system. What Mr. Dharkar suggested us to have one more spectrum of discussion. How do you think this awareness and the policy part of it you are able to overcome?
See, piping is the most important part of a plumbing system in the firefighting also. And now
आप firefighting में क्या कर रहे हैं?
firefighting mein we are looking for this, we are getting installed in the fire hydrant line basically, which is underground, where just in a span of 3 to 4 years, there is corrosion taking place.
What material are you providing in the underground piping?
Underground, we are providing the Thermoplast FR composite PPR pipes with a glass fiber reinforced technology only. It's underground and it is having a life of 50 years. There is no corrosion, no rusting, absolutely it's
So is there
leakage
a
proof.
policy which allows you to provide this material in the underground piping system?
Underground, there is no such policy framed out, but being in this piping arena, that most of the firefighting authority, they have pointed out that it's rather to, because the corrosion and rusting is most prominent in the underground over a span of just 2 years, 3 years
So
down the
when
line.
you
there
have
is
a solution, why not a policy to I would say justify the solution which is there existing today?
Yes, there is a solution, because as I said, the conventional system, they get corroded very fast. in
I'm
a
saying, sir,
span.
we should move ahead, and I'm saying, why not a policy? Why not let us forget about enforcement.
It is
when
only
you-
about awareness basically.
Yeah, so I'm saying when there is awareness,
Yes,
there is a product,
yes,
I think what we are also lacking as a community, that despite that there could be a product, despite that there could be awareness, I think the drive to have it adopted by policy is also lacking.
yes, the
So God
policy is
forbid if
lacking in
something
that.
goes wrong, God forbid if something goes wrong, in the installation of a material which is not ratified by a policy,
Yes.
the problem comes to somebody like Mr. Srinivas or to me.
Yes.
Ki, this material, you tell me, how did you specify when it was not ratified by a policy?
Yes.
Yes, sir? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. But policies can adopt products by certification. So therefore, there is a whole gamut of the whole working. We just can't be saying policies nahi hai. The certification which you will produce for the performance of those products
Yes.
will also lead to the, I would say, the satisfaction and the reason for it to be as a part of policy.
So we have got the certification of the CBRI Roorkee also.
Right.
For that, and it is coming under the NBCC code also, this PPR for the Therba Plus, NBCC code in class 1, where we have taken the certification, and for the past 10 years for the fire hydrant line basically we have got up. There is no certification for the exposed line which is there in the,
So
you
I
can
think
say it's for the ceiling or for the entire movement which is exposed of the pipes. Because there
I
you
think-
require the fire authority rating also, as well as the approval from the fire authority, which we could not have, which we have not still obtained as yet. It is in the process. I
Yeah,
mean,
so-
there will be ISI also by March in this particular arena for the exposed line. Now underground, the authorities, they comply that it is due to the corrosion, you are going for a supplement product, you go ahead with that, because there is no harm in if there is no corrosion. If the life of the pipe is 50 years, it's go for the PPR pipes is better. In that case, there won't be any leakage. So at the time of real fire breakout, we will be able to get the fire water sourcing also at the time of extinguishing. So that is my point.
No, I think you're right, absolutely. But simultaneously, the expectations from the OEMs, and I go to Anik now, that you are one of the reputed OEMs providing your excellent products, which have probably, I would say, have tested the times for its performances. You have got them certified by third-party labs. There are in policies. You tell us how your outlook in terms of products which are performance oriented and are able to now find the place in policies has led to the success in business, because eventually what works is what is prescribed, and what is prescribed is what is performing. And you have products which perform, therefore prescribed, therefore successful. So there is a chain of reaction to lead to business success from both, I would use the word, from the perspective of finances and also from the perspective of gaining the satisfaction to provide the country the quality products which have never let you down for many, many years, and overall so many installations which you have done.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. So, it's a long journey. Any product manufacturing, for it to test the time, it's a long journey. Some of the products that have been installed by us way back in 90s are still functioning in many places. And the same user might have used something different in early 2000, and they may have to replace those products in the later years, for which it becomes a case study for them that what different it is as compared to the other brands. So going by this legacy, having products approved, it is important that because of the code, because of the practice of the code being prevalent, stringent acts being prevalent, people are bound to buy those products which are complying to the requirement and safeguarding the hazard. Again, when I talk of sprinkler system, for example, a lot of people fear about sprinkler system being accidentally operated, or let's say sprinkler system being accidentally operated from the piping joints. This is a typical fear that people used to have back in 10-15 years back in India. Today the market is quite matured. People don't fear about it, and those who really fear about it, there are alternate products available like pre-action systems where in case of an accidental breakage of a sprinkler or in case of a piping joint, you do not have accidental water discharge, but in case of a real fire scenario, you have water coming in. So this is a
So I
thought
think,
process
Anik,
which
I'll
has
stop
added
you
up.
here for a while. How many architects do we have over here in the audience? Architects would raise their hands, please. Mr. Manu Malhotra, thank you, sir. Yeah, of course, madam. But we don't consider you as an architect any further now. Sorry, you are MEP community, you are the fire community for us. So we have got 2-3 architects primarily. Arik sahab, aap bhi kaise? Matlab, anyway, so I think this is the pragmatism of our working. Sir, you are calling him or you are raising your hands to be an architect, sir? Okay, you are calling him. So he just said, come. So I thought, he's an architect. So fair enough, I think this is the problem where we are in. We have the attention of architects missing in this conversation. And how many of us will hold a sprinkler in our hand and say, isko laga lo? Because लगाने वाला तो आदमी इस रूम में ही नहीं है. सिर्फ देने वाला है और बताने वाला है. लगाने वाला तो missing है. So this is where I think the whole problem lies, that when Anik makes a statement that people had that fear of the sprinkler to be provided in the room, at least इस room वाले लोगों को तो fear है नहीं. तो जिसको fear है वो आ नहीं रहा. So the problem remains over here is that awareness can also be done when there is a two-side interaction of you to be aware. Unfortunately, fortunately for FSCI, whether we like it or not, 95% of the people in this room are quite aware of what we are talking about. But nevertheless, our passion still grows, and you came up with products which have never let you down, which have functioned well. You like to add something and close it, Anik, over here?
Yeah, so...
The pre-action system you are talking.
Yeah, pre-action system that I was referring. I'll give you a very classic example. So there was a news house broadcasting live news, and they need to provide the sprinkler system. I'll come on this case study typically for the topic that we are into. The rule book says that you need to provide a sprinkler system, but the broadcasting house was quite fearful that in case of a live broadcasting going on, and in case there is a accidental sprinkler damage or any piping joint breaking out, what would be a fiasco that, water coming down. So they didn't want to put the sprinkler system only in that small live broadcasting room, but they were quite compliant to provide the sprinkler system everywhere else. Here, the codes are extremely important, and that's what I said, that policies are extremely important. This was happening in Delhi, and Delhi Fire Service was so strong enough to say that we need the sprinkler systems. You need to provide sprinkler systems. In these scenarios, they had to provide a pre-action system. So you're providing a sprinkler system as well, and you are sure enough that only in case of fire you will be having water discharge. Thank you.
So I think this is another, how many of us are afraid of putting a sprinkler in an electrical room? I'm sure we have got difference of opinions over here. And we can have a debate about it, and I'm very passionate of providing. So you are afraid of, or you have a question? You are providing. That's something which we will have to work as a society together. Courts would not allow you. Sir, hospitality industry, healthcare industry, education industry, all are typical industries only. Perfectly fine. So that is where we have to look at. Exemptions overrules the rules. But we are looking at ourselves exempting the spaces, like in case what Anik said, isko chhod dete hain because hame dar lagta hai. And that is where I think the whole trouble starts, where you are doing your work more with your instinct rather than research. That's where the trouble starts. Come to you later, madam. No, you don't. No, staircase sprinklers are evident. They'll come into an NBC, then nobody can have their objections. Staircase sprinklers, people are not provided. Please come again, sir. I want to hear you. नहीं वो तो अभी आप करते हैं सर, वो आ रहा है अभी. स्प्रे सिस्टम राइट हैंड साइड की तरफ बैठे हैं. So now we'll go to spray, and we have got a great friend over here, water mist. So where Anik is not able to kind of satisfy the people to provide, there is another portfolio which is known as spray, mist. So I would like to know from you, Ricardo, that how the mist system technologies have been successful globally. You have done it in data centers. We have done it in. I have done it in libraries. We have done it in museums. So technologies are available today. You have to ask for it. So tell us something about your technology.
Yes, I think you're definitely right. The technologies are there. You have to ask for it. I think it's really a nice one. I believe, first of all, that water mist and awareness are really two close words each other. Water mist was born thanks to the awareness, I would say, because in the history, with the awareness of what is a fire, what we can do also with water against fire, for example. You know, water mist was born due to an accident on a ship with a lot of injuries and death. And that allows also the institution, the policy, the standardization to start investigating on research and development and see how we can implement the traditional systems. And that's when water mist was discovered, was developed, first at higher pressure, then with new products and lower pressure, even having more benefits for the global market. And what we can do to bring that technology is to research, to do tests, to develop. I think water mist is nowadays the technology, the more tested technology globally. We tested every hazard, we tested batteries, we tested EV cars, we tested tunnels, we tested all the newest risks we have available. That's also why technology is really global welcome and really growing around the world and give us the awareness to be sure of what is a fire, what is the type of fire, what is the type of fire, and giving us the strength and the knowledge to cooperate with the policies and the standards to let them grow together. Because when I think, you mentioned data centers, perhaps library are a risk that is stable in a life cycle of a library, but a data center is something changing every day, almost every half an hour with artificial intelligence, with Internet of Things, with all the growing power. And our testing part is the key because standard process is really low. Takes years, takes sometimes many years, sometimes a decade to be developed. So our role is really crucial and fundamental in this part. And I think we as a manufacturer, we have this role.
Yeah, I think the Indian standards have also made a move towards it. So there are MIST standards, there are mentions of MIST technologies to be used for areas which could lead to collateral damage due to discharge of water in areas which are sensitive of those natures. But having said that, you know, we still carry that, we have that notion of NFPA versus NBC kind of a scenario. And thank you, I think the product range and the technology also prescribes and performs, in this case, you know, in terms of a very, very appropriately designed system, leads to a more safer system without the damages which can consequentially happen because of the fire water discharges.
Yeah, yes, you're definitely right. I think you mentioned also the Indian standard, the NFPA, or also the European code. We definitely see that there is a correlation between all standards, so they are basically saying roughly the same thing in different words, with some slightly modification each other. But one thing we can say about water mist, so the best and the biggest benefit is that it's specifically tested for that specific hazard. So what we know using water mist, especially low pressure water mist, of course, is that we know that that system we are going to use is properly and suited for that hazard. And that's when the design becomes crucial.
Yeah. So Mr. Vora, you come to us from Bosch. Yes. So in Bosch, when you're talking about surveillance systems?
Fire detection system.
Fire detection system over here. So in the fire detection system, while we have got 2189 as a kind of our code, you know, and we have got NFPA 72, we have got EN standards, we have got VDS. You see, there are so many things which we are still adopting, which could have been more modernized in our codes. Where do you think our Indian codes, specifically I am more focused about EVAC. How does the EVAC part of it happens globally, which we are lacking? You'll see, my version always has been in India, EVAC system is Ahuja. Pick up a microphone, switch on the switch and say, hello fire, please move the room. There is no technology which we are putting into EVAC. And that is where, if you have a good crowd management system by voice, you can save a lot of lives by effective communication. What happened in COVID? The communication from the Prime Minister led to the country in one direction. We were very focused, we were very clear. And I'll give one more example of what my learning from COVID has been, how the fire fraternity could learn things from COVID. There could be a separate presentation on that itself. How unanimously working together has led to the success of the overall working. So similarly, I would say voice, communication, EVAC. becomes one of the most important criteria. And for us, fire alarm is all about detector and strobes and hooters. So tell us something about your experience about Indian fraternity and the realization of evac in our designs, which consultants come to you for.
Thanks, Mr. Sandeep. It was a very nice question where the fire and evacuation, which we generally call it as a PAVA, PAVA system, will play a vital role in the any commercial, government or office building or a residential building as well. So with Bosch, we have learned that availability of the system should be 24/7, whether may it be fire alarm or a public address system. So we are looking at both the systems separately, and at the same time, both the systems should get integrated on a seamless integration with the help of a Cat5 cable without using a control module or kind of thing, so that it will save a lot of cost as well. And at the same time, we have a cause and effect matrix from the consultant, or we make sure that whatever the sandwich programming which is required as per the building requirement, that the floor on which there is a fire, we have a evacuation message, and one floor above, one floor below, we have a alert message will be broadcasted as per the consultant or the customer requirement. So both the systems separately but integrated. On those parameters we work, and the functionality will remain same, so that system will be available 24/7, 365 days.
I think this is very important. I'll go back to you, Jiju, now over here from Honeywell. You provide a passionate design to the team, and we thank, I would say, as a fraternity, to all the OEMs here who come and seek appointments from us to educate us something which you have researched and you have invested money, and then you come back to consultants like us trying to educate them, to prescribe them. Obviously business is one part of it, but I think adding safety to the overall design is the whole, I would say, our moral responsibility with which we work. Now when you work, Jiju, on a Honeywell kind of a design system, why the aspect of how much of questioning, and do you not drive the project in asking your end user where is the cause and effect matrix? Do you drive that or you prepare that? I want to know that from you, because policies don't tell anything. There is no NFPA 72 or NBC which gives you the logic of a cause and effect. That all works from the heart and mind of the person who's designing the system. Do you develop a cause and effect, or you ask your consultant to give the cause and effect?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Sandeep sir, for such a nice question. Okay, so before answering that, I would like to maybe add upon, okay, so I will just take a quote which was discussed in the previous panel discussion by Mr. Srikanth, if I'm not wrong, from FM. He mentioned about the data or maybe the accidents that gets registered can be managed. Now, whatever codes and standards that we are talking about, we perhaps refer the guidelines like NFPA 72 from the design standpoint and maybe UL from the quality standpoint. Beyond that, we have vertical specific guidelines. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, for instance, if I talk about data center, we have NFPA 75. In healthcare, we have NFPA 99, 45 for lab, 318 for various different sectors. Now, cause and effect matrix is something which is not defined in the guideline. Having said that, it will be based on the performance-based design. Basis, let's say, the building geometry, basis, let's say, the building orientation, right? The type of, the class of hazard that we define, basis the building material that we have inside the building. So, of course, we do help the consultants in terms of, formulating the codes and standards. Like, for instance, in specific verticals, there could be need of, let's say, positive alarm sequence and things like that. In specific verticals, it could be, let's say, like, for instance, data center, basis the external parameters like air velocity or maybe air changes per hour. We define saying that it cannot be normal, passive detection. It has to be an active detection or advanced detection and things like that. That needs to be seamlessly integrated. And how exactly all the three major core elements, that's detect, alert, and evacuate, followed by suppression, has to work hand in hand. And most importantly, everything needs to be supervised. So we help the consultants in terms of fine-tuning, the complete cause and effect matrix, basis the specific requirement of the project, because every project would be complex and it will be different in nature. That's how it is.
थोड़ा हेल्प करना कम करो आप, क्योंकि क्या होता है, हेल्प करने के चक्कर में the whole cat comes and sits on your head. So the imagination with which you can actually design the project is completely lagged. तो Honeywell को phone करो, वो बता देंगे. So I think while we appreciate your hardware capabilities, integration capabilities में touch and go करिए. I meet people, I'll give you a classical example. There is something which is known as elevator recall, right? What is an elevator recall? Secondary recall and recall, थोड़ा सा interesting है. So when I try to tell the client that there is a recall, तो सबको पता है, बिल्डिंग के फायर अलार्म सिस्टम में फायर का सिग्नल आया, तो एलिवेटर ग्राउंड पे जाके रुक जाएगा, उसके दोनों दरवाजे खुल जाएंगे. अब वो एलिवेटर वहीं पर ही रुका रहेगा, and people who are wherever they are, they come to the ground and the elevator is parked and all is done. This is known as recall. The another word is secondary recall. What happens in a secondary recall? If the fire is on the ground, then what will be the next step to which the system will be programmed, right? That's a secondary recall system. So when we tell our clients that you need to define alternate floor in case the fire itself is on the ground, then where does the elevator go and park itself? So the next answer which I get, Jiju, is like, ऐसे थोड़ा ना होता है, ऐसे नहीं होता, हमने नहीं करा कभी भी. So the problem what comes over here is ऐसे नहीं होता क्योंकि आपके साथ नहीं हुआ. But if you talk about National Building Code of India, Part 8, Section 3, it will tell you exact Section 5, it will exactly tell you what is a secondary recall system. And unless until that is being told to the people over here, and if he does not know, you do not know. And that's where the chain reaction of a failure starts. So the problem comes is relying too much on experts who are from OEMs without your own domain knowledge can also lead to failure of designs which you felt was very right. So I think, Jiju, that is something which we will have to really work around in terms of case studies of your cause and effect. I think that will educate people more than anything else. I'm coming slowly to that side of the discussion over here. Then I'm going to Mr. Modgill, who comes to us from Motorola. So from the part of it, we would like to know from you, sir, you are again surveillance is what you see?
Yes.
And we carry a lot of golden memories about Motorola. My first mobile phone, when my salary was equivalent to the phone which I purchased. Yes, sir, you are making it right size. Let me make it a little smaller. So I think Motorola, we carry a lot of emotional attachment to that phone. And I still regret why did I dispose of that phone for 500 rupees later. I should have kept it. It would have been more, like a technology art piece in my system. So you come to us from Motorola, a company which is highly respected for its mobile communication solutions at one point of time. Tell us something about your understanding about Indian market, surveillance system when you have got an Indian manufacturer, when you have got global people around. What is the standards which you will like to prescribe for purpose of the video surveillance systems from Motorola?
Thank you, Sandeep. So I represent the video security and access control of a Motorola solution. So primarily we into video security and access control from a Motorola, although we have three categories. So as coming back to your question that what policy or what guidelines need to be adhered. So as the market is growing in India, there's a lot of potential requirements are going on, but equally there are policy need to be enforced. Definitely, as you said in the other people, that there are awareness about the policies, but enforcement is also equally important to that, because that only going to adhere to although there are businesses, there are citizens, there are people, they are already aware about that, but till the time there is no policies are enforced, there will be some strict fines or some penalties that will lead to the policy. But at the same time, awareness is also important, because if you see the major incident that has been taken maybe a human error or neglecting the people. So I think the ideal solution is a balanced approach that can lead to the awareness, educates, and enforcement direct to the actions. So that leads to the ideal approach to it.
So I would request you, probably Motorola, maybe at further times, we would need to see case studies from you. How your case studies on global projects have made a difference and impact in terms of the additional surveillance benefits we have driven out of it.
Yes, so as I mentioned, so one is the video security, and what Motorola solution is doing, they in the last 9 years, they almost acquired 20 companies which are more dedicated into the data, voice and video. Right. So what they are doing an integrated approach that they are all combining all data, voice and video. So
So I think the analytics is the key to kind of
Yes,
work
from
around
a
it.
video is the analytics, from a radio is a voice, then in data we have all AI. So whenever there is any critical situation, so the people who are handling these things, so the data, voice and video can be work in a one single integrated approach. So that is the vision we as a Motorola solution is taking, sir.
Thank you. I think that will be helping us to make the roadmap for future codes and standards. So now I come to Mr. Menon. So the electrical LK part of it. So I would say, typically speaking, as we all know, the problem starts from the so-called electrical systems, which is a myth, in a way, if you ask me. It could be human issues, it could be this. But today, IEC standards are well known. We have got type-tested panels, we have got partial type-tested panels. Why there are no policies for having the type of panels to be provided in a specific type of buildings which are critical driven by policy? Is there a policy which says for an airport, by policy you need to have this, or it's a more user driven policy which, systems which are being adopted?
Thank you, Sandeep. Good afternoon to all of you. So let me just, for the people present here, I am from Lawrence, Knudsen. It's a bit of a tongue twister. You can call it LK. But we are erstwhile L&T Switchgear Electrical and Automation Group, now part of the Schneider Electric Group. We are in the business of electrical and automation systems since last almost 7 decades in this country. And to answer your question, your point is absolutely valid. If you can't find the reason of the fire, blame the wire. That's how the industry goes, right? So in any news article you read that there is a fire in the building, probably a short circuit. Now nobody knows what that is supposed to mean. So yes, see, in an electrical industry, everything starts from the electrical, as far as fire safety is concerned, everything starts from the electrical system. Why? Because it's all about thermal management. How we are able to balance what is the temperature which is produced in the ecosystem. And when we talk about an ecosystem, it can be the electrical room, it can be the electrical panel, how that is managed well. Now, earlier the standards were not very clear about it, but maybe in the last 6-8 years, we have got the newer standard, the IC 61439 Part 2 and Part 6, which define very clearly how the switchboard has to be designed. And the part you were referring to of PTT and TTA, that was nomenclature associated with the earlier standard. Now, under the new standard, there is only one way to test your equipment or switchboard is with the complete design verified assembly, which essentially means that you are testing the switchboard along with the components inside it. Earlier, it was possible for somebody to test the switchboard separate, empty switchboard separate, and the component separate, and it would get integrated. But then, as a combination is what you're going to use, how it performs under a test scenario has never been asked for or it was permitted in the earlier standard. Now the new standard does not permit it. The challenge for a country like ours is obviously how the adoption happens, at what speed it gets percolated. After almost 8 years now, I think the adoption rate is maybe 25% on an average, the new standard, in terms of actual usage. And if I talk about building segment, it is even lesser. It's more so in the public space where the government has really mandated that all the main installations or the main switchboards will come with the new standard, and maybe down the line the auxiliary supplies can be not as per the new standard. But as far as the private space is concerned, it's purely the choice of the consumer. And the consumer is a person who is non-technical in many cases, and it is the job of this community, the electrical community, the fraternity, which means everybody in this room, to impress upon them what is the use of the standard, what is the...
But I since you just mentioned about it, it is your responsibility, and I demand from you, probably we'll put this on records. You see, electrical engineers tend to make things look so different, and we have to imagine a lot of things. Because hydraulics you can still see, air you can still feel, But electricity, neither I want to feel nor I want to touch, because that is something which could lead to a catastrophe. So I would say many a times the awareness pattern of electrical systems, electrical engineers are good mechanical engineers, good civil engineers. But vice versa is not true. Which have a problem is that whenever we have an electrical system, the mechanical team and the civil team is only looking at as a MCB. उससे ज़्यादा उनको नहीं आता. Because the problem is, sir, you have to publish something for us.
So I think there is enough and more data available. There is no dearth of data. The issue is that today, as I said, as a developing country, if we always have the challenge of cost, right? And the electrical especially comes at the fag end. You know, you spend on the marble, you spend on the aesthetics, you spend on the building, civil, everything. After that, finally, if you have budget and if you have time, then people think
But
about
sir, you
electrical.
need to do
So you
something
get
for
at the fact.
education. You know, we have got friends and colleagues from project management I know over here. Parag has just looked at me. ACB, VCB, OCB ke alawa, I'm not sure you will know anything about electrical systems. All you can talk about is rising mains, but for fire safety part of it, I think a little more awareness about having it educational pattern lectures. Let's not go to the level where we are not able to understand what you are talking about. Let's try
But
to come
Sandeep,
up.
I just would
Sir,
like to
now
say
you
one-
come here, please. No. You know, I think now my question goes there because my time is kind of done, and consultants always speak after the clock has
Anyway,
zero.
consultants are the last person to
Sir,
be contacted for
Srinivasa,
anything.
you'll have to come and stand over here. It is so very difficult for...
No,
Nahi,
Sandeep,
nahi.
can I just finish my point?
Haan,
I just
sir,
have a
please.
small point.
That is what I wanted to interrupt him. No, it's
So,
okay. Please, tell me what is the thing.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I'll just finish my point, sir, 1 second. So the final point, what I wanted to say is that there are many categories of products. And so when consultants are specifying, they generally specify the make. But it would be good if we can even specify the particular models. Whatever help you require with respect to any technical input, of course, we are available to
Look,
give.
we zero down to the models once we have the closure of the design primarily. So
Yes.
that's the way to go about it. So
Yes.
we'll say we need this, this and this.
Yes.
But as we go ahead in selecting the single lines and the schemes, then the
Yes.
breaker selection and all that
Yes.
becomes a part of a checkbox.
Today, the biggest problem we face is the cost part I'm talking about is there are a lot of cheap imports coming up, right? Where, you know, it may tick all the boxes as far as the technical parameters go, but in terms of life,
No, we
There is
will
no
be
guarantee.
cautious. That's the
I would
reason
like
we
to
are
say
here.
one thing.
Yes,
On
Mr.
this particular
Srinivas.
subject,
Yeah.
I don't know, anyway, time is out. What I would like to say, you asked one question, you know, what kind of panels for different kind of facilities or something. But actually, electricity is one and the same. It cannot be different for different kind of facilities, the first thing I would like to say. And whatever the distribution systems we do, it is same. Whether it is a hospital, whether it is a residential, or whatever the kind of infrastructure. And second thing is...
But there is an
yes,
element of resilience, no, Mr. Srinivas?
No, that is only with respect to the resilience or redundancies. That's a different thing. That goes depending on the requirement of the facility. There could be, you know, n+1, n+n, n+2, and whatever you talk about, that is a different issue. But the basic parameters will not change. The type of panels will not change. The type of rising mains cannot be changed. The only thing is, we need to get the other part, whatever you are talking about, awareness. Yes, there is a lot of awareness required. And unfortunately, there are different people, you know, and they practice in a different way. Even though there are guidelines, CEA guidelines are there, NEC is there, NBC is there, but there is a lot of awareness required for a lot of people. So this is where I think we need to work. That is one thing which I would like to say. Sure. Another thing I just wanted to share with everybody, you know, like Central Electricity Authority has given guidelines which is enforced across all the states. Why can't we do fire codes also in a similar way? Because unfortunately, I'm finding every state government is giving their own codes. And a building which is safer, you know, which is a high rise at 24 meters in Mumbai, but it's a high rise at 15 meters in somewhere else. And a building which is safer in Calcutta is not no more safer in Hyderabad. How can it be?
The problem has
And-
been, it's my way, highway. So I think overall, there is a lot of disconnects.
Now, when it is related to safety, my suggestion
to be
is it
universal.
should be uniform policy
Yeah, yeah.
throughout the country,
Absolutely.
and that reflects good on the country also.
Yeah, I
when we
agree
go
with
somewhere else. But we can't have different, I'll tell you, one of the state government have issued a GO that no fire pumps required, no sprinklers required, nothing is required. whatever it may be. I don't want to take it's my own state, so I don't want to say that. But see, this is going to be a major issue. You know, but you see, tomorrow that gentleman goes out of that position. Again, that GO was quashed,
but if
and again he
if
came
you-
back. Unfortunately, again it started.
No, I'm just saying, if you have analyzed and researched and found what you have done is right,
Yeah.
then that should become the blueprint for the entire
Agreed,
system.
agreed. But you see,
But
we
it
can't
cannot
take
be
a
varied.
chance. Yeah, that's what I'm trying
That's
to
right.
say. This
So I
is
think
one
from
thing my
that,
request.
that note, I think we are universally trying to achieve our objectives in silos. And this is where I think the whole collaboration is lacking.
Yes.
And this is what is, we need to break it, and we need to present ourselves unilaterally together as one team with an integrated approach. So I think this is the, I'm trying my best to, kind of give opportunities to my panelists to express their views. My apologies to you, the time was short, but there were many of us and everybody had the opportunity to share their thoughts. And from that perspective, if the organizers can tell me how to now close it, or you like to do something over there on the Q&A can be later on, how is it, Anas bhai?
Thank you so much. Maybe we can have just one quick question.
One?
Yeah,
You
please.
decide.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, please. Hanji, Mr. Architect, sir, you are the person to say over here.
So I was looking at the panel and I saw that there was no door, fire door manufacturer on the panel. So my question is more to the consultant, to you. And see, is there a fire door, a sliding fire door, which gives us 2-hour fire rating?
No.
So,
Not as per our
so then
yes.
the next question is that if the National Building Code says that you require, let's say for an operating room, a 2-hour fire rated door, and as a designer, I want to have a hermetically sealed sliding 2-hour fire rated door, which also needs to be a lead line door because I want it to be protected. If there are extra shots and all going on in the OTs, I don't want passerby to get affected by that. So is there anything like that available? Is there anything which is under process? And if not, how do we mitigate this as a designer between NBC and the fire departments?
The manufacturers have to come out of that.
There is certain Delhi hospitals that we have done where there were these normal doors, operating theaters and all. So the simple solution would be to have a sliding door and then put a fire curtain before or after that, something of that. But but then you have fire curtains which have a bottom rail with a magnetic lock. So you need to press that. So
No, but
Number one. Or do you want to make it as a compartment and then classify the whole thing as one compartment, or you need boxes within boxes? I think that is something we'll have to really look into. Thank you, Manuji. So, anything else? I think.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I think we can have that separate. Mr. Menon
Yeah.
Saab. Menon Saab wants to say something, and I think the objectives.
Sir, I think can we
I think
have
we
this
can close it, but
discussion,
I think unilaterally we have one objective: safety, and please give us one guideline so that we can adopt, practice, maintain, and abide by the requirements. And that is what I think the mission of the country remains. And this is where we have got together. Let's not have silos inputs to achieve excellence. Let's unilaterally work on the excellence part of it. Thank you so much, and I think we'll.
Thank you
we'll
very much.
express
So
thank you
nice.
to all of you.
Kindly step ahead for a group photograph, please, gentlemen.